Streaming now on IWTV, TWE. Check out our schedule for all future TWE events scheduled to stream live on IWTV. Watch 70 plus TWE shows anytime on demand, featuring Tank, Jaden Newman, Derek Neal, Darian Bankston, and more.
Hello and welcome to the latest Business of the Business podcast. I am your co-host, JP, John Paz from the two-man power trip. Of course, joining me is the doctor himself, not the doctor of style, but he is the Dr. Lavie Margolin. Lavie, how you doing today, sir?
Hey, John, I'm doing well. We had a wonderful run of guests, and we look forward to more guests in the future. But sometimes you just got to go all in on the news.
That is true. There's a lot to cover, a lot to talk about. And even in the Middle East, believe it or not, as far as the wrestling world is concerned. So break it down. What is going on in the Middle East? Not as far as Iran, but just as far as what's going on in wrestling in the Middle East.
Yes. Iran is not number one. The Iranian people are number one. USA. It's kind of a Iran is the jobber so far in the war. But to see how it's affecting maybe Middle East plans, I was starting to think about like what's been announced and what might happen. And already having been in the news internationally, the Passover Pasch in Israel taking place on April 6th in Drom HaSharon Municipal Arena. Now, if it was just a local show, it wouldn't be as notable. But, you know, once they had one cancellation, they started booking all these international talents, the type that don't necessarily care or follow social media that much. And I think that's a smart idea to take a booking. Rhino, PCO, Carlito, Chris Masters, who'd be returning, and Julissa Mexa. So this isn't, as we're recording this, actually, I guess it's a month out, but that one would seem to be, most in danger. It's, of course, not only in the region, it's somewhere that has been experiencing missile attacks, unfortunately. Tragically, there's been some deaths since the war started. Actually, 3 siblings in the same neighborhood. So our condolences go out for that. So that would be one that I would say is pretty shaky. The next, which hasn't necessarily been announced that much yet, but Qatar, or actually they're rebranding themselves QPW.
Yep.
Excuse me. The QPW's Super Slam. This is the show that's expected to have TNA talent on it May 1st. So they're managing some of their own issues there, as I believe they have bases from the U.S. And Iran has been hitting at them too. But May 1st, this may be all wrapped up. And I think the Night of Champions in Saudi Arabia, June 27th, hopefully this is all wrapped up. John, have you thought about the news and all these like Middle Eastern shows?
Just thinking like, how safe are they right now? You know what I mean? Like, will they all be going in? Will it be safe? WWE obviously has Saudi. It's not Riyadh where the embassy is, but it's Jeddah. So it's, I think, not that far. I mean, I could be wrong on the geography of it, but like that makes me worried. Then WrestleMania kind of make like with that, like, is the safety now a concern as far as that's going on?
Yeah, and it I guess interesting is the word, but it'd be interesting to see if there are still issues. I don't think they'd be going if there's like, no flights going in and out, but like if it still seems pretty shaky related to Saudi Arabia, how much WWE would do a trade-off between the safety of the talent and making the money. And we saw some issues with the planes being delayed before, but that's a whole different level.
So as far as that's concerned, I feel like, definitely something to keep your eye on, especially with TNA, right? Then them doing some shows over there, very recent, like it's very close to coming up. So it's like, wow, it's like just something to keep your eye on, and hopefully everything goes according to plan.
Yeah, with TNA, this Super Slam event, I don't know anything about the financials, but they sent the Anthem financial guy there last time, who was actually quoted in some of the local media. So it must be financially a very important thing to them. So that would have, a pretty big impact on them if that doesn't come across. But there are a whole nother month beyond the Israel show.
So let's talk about MVP, most valuable promotions. Jake Paul, right? I mean, so are they getting into wrestling? Do they want to get into wrestling? What's kind of the latest? What do you think about MVP?
Yeah, so I don't know, but I've been thinking about them a little while. I think this thought comes from the idea that we've talked about for years on the show. Like, would it be possible to sort of like make a one-off wrestling super show? um, Meaning that whatever free agents, retired legends that are willing to come back, wrestlers in transition, maybe between contracts, between going to from WWE to AEW to WWE, or whatever it might be, that you have a one-off show. And for television, that didn't financially make as much sense, but for streaming, it does, meaning that you're getting people to sign up for your service, and it goes beyond like a one night experience. And Most Valuable Promotions has been doing really well with boxing, and now is getting into MMA with Ronda Rousey. So I had to think, like, is there the possibility for wrestling? So the first thing that makes it difficult, of course, is that Netflix seems to be the biggest buyer. And of course, you can have wrestling on Netflix. That's WWE's territory. But, with Amazon, the zone would be a different lower level or something like that. But they've been booking some of these like boxing super cards. There could be something there. Jake Paul himself, right? He's never wrestled, right? His brother is the wrestler. So that's one potential talent that you can use for it. But there's not a lot of people necessarily out there. I'm always curious, like, about Austin's deal, right? Like, he has obviously a relationship with WWE, merchandising deal, and I'd imagine some sort of Legends deal. But I don't know if anything prevents him from wrestling a match. We always hear about rumors about WrestleMania, which doesn't often come to fruition. But I think one of the only mega matches that I think crosses over into the mainstream would be Austin against Goldberg.
No doubt about it. But yeah, I think that WWE deal, I don't know. I feel like there's no way he could do anything outside of WWE. Would be awesome. And it would be cool to see them pull it off, especially streaming when they're doing, like these big Rousey Carano, like these huge money matches. You know what I mean? These big time, not necessarily they're in their prime, but they're such big names that it'll draw. Austin Goldberg fits the bill, if you will. Even like throw Mike Tyson out there when they were doing that with Tyson. Like, just those huge names in the bill, they tend to kill it streaming.
Yeah. So, like, if you can't use Austin, Goldberg and Jake Paul, I don't know. Like, it's a different level. Now Batista, right? Like, he's a pretty big mainstream name, not like the tippy top level, because that wasn't the time he was the star. He's also a Disney movie star, but he's trimmed down a lot. There was No Judgment. There was the picture of him in a dress and I think high heels when he went to an award show. Of course, that wouldn't affect his wrestling, but he might be focused on different things, more sort of getting out there in different ways right now. But he did look. I think they showed like one of the upcoming Marvel movies, and like it did look like him. When he was in the Guardians of the Galaxy movie. So I don't know if he's bulking up or that was AI again. And then, of course, Ronda Rousey is busy with her upcoming fight, like we talked about with Carano, but, getting back into pro wrestling, which she loved, which she basically did it even for Ring of Honor. You need the right opponent for her as well. So I think it's like a viable project. I'm just not sure if the talent is out there right now.
It is interesting with him just because, like, he obviously kind of, I guess they bulked down, if you will. He's not as jacked as he was. He's not a monster. He said that'll get him more roles and he'll be doing more things in Hollywood. But it's funny that he did that, and then his next two movies are exactly what he said he wasn't going to be doing, which are like action movies. So he's doing the movie The Wrecking Crew with Jason Momoa, and then he did that movie Trap House, which is now out on Netflix, which is another action movie. So it's like you slimmed down and you did that so you'd be doing more like drama roles, and he went right back into exactly the roles you would think that he would do. So I was like kind of confused by that, but he could do whatever he wants. But I just was like, man, you're kind of trimming down to do the same exact movies you're already doing. Like, how does that make sense?
Yeah, and like with The Rock, right? He's like, I want to do a lot of different things, but like when he would do something that isn't like directly action movie, A, it wouldn't do as well, but B, it was sort of like tongue in cheek that he is a gigantic guy and he's doing something that's not action.
Yeah. And he's actually booked, I forget what the heck the movie is, but he's basically like a 70s gangster or something like that, or he's the godfather of a mobster movie or whatever. So The Rock kind of makes sense that he trimmed down because he's actually filming the role. Batista was trimming down, I guess, assuming he was going to get those roles. I don't know. I just was confused by it.
Yeah, I mean, glad he has this career now. I think it's really important for pro wrestlers at whatever level. But I think he sort of lost some of his love for pro wrestling because of like maybe under Vince McMahon's regime. So I'd be curious to see if, he ever comes back, under any circumstances. Of course, you also have Mick Foley, who was thinking about doing a hardcore match a couple years ago. He's lost a lot of weight, but please, like, I hope he doesn't do it anymore. He talks about being in pain or whatever it may be from time to time, and there's no reason to like add on, to that.
Yes. Now, what the heck is going on at the 2300 Arena? It was funny. We were kind of talking about this off and on about how, hey, MLW hasn't ran there a while. Then they're running there in a while. Hey, this hasn't, and then like GCW should run there. Then GCW is running there. So I'm not saying they're listening to the show and they're taking our advice here because I think it's like kind of obvious you should run there. So who else is running there? What are they doing there? Because it seems like it's going to be a busy 2026 for the 2300 Arena and pro wrestling.
Yeah, it seems like it goes in waves there at the 2300 Arena, and that it's quiet, or maybe they had Feinstein's promotion. I'm not sure what the latest is with that was doing well for a while. But first upcoming is the Heels Have Eyes, which is pretty expensive seats, relatively speaking. $257 for the front row, $107 and $77 general admission or basic level seats. But it looks like they're doing quite well. I didn't count the maps, but there's an open map for 2300 Arena on the website. So plus some GA sections, but for the reserved, it looks like a little bit more than half gone. I guess it's not too far away at this point, 3 weeks away. In May, the GCW show, one night only, is $106 to $36. That looks like more than half the tickets distributed, so they're doing well. MLW is further out, and that's looks pretty slow right now, certainly comparatively, that there's plenty of tickets in the front row left. Some of those sold. I don't think they've sold some in the back. So theirs is, kind of quiet. Theirs is up to 102, but as easy as $17 to get it.
Man, a lot of like random shows are there. Not only MLW stuff and GCW, but like I forgot, Heels Have Eyes are there as well. So 2300 will have, like almost like every promotion that's ever existed will be wanting to run there. It's funny. Must be like a fair price, and you're going to get a good crowd. You know what I mean? But like it's obviously smart to run there.
Yeah, you have that cachet, even though it's not the same. Inside you have that legendary status, and it's not so big, but you could charge. It's in a good market, so you could charge higher prices, especially for the better seats. And they have the production facilities, probably some good Wi-Fi or connectivity there. The parking, you have space for the trucks outside. It just tends to work if you have like a niche special show, or for a larger promotion like a more low-key show or something that you need to fill up for like one of your sub brands.
It's not too far away from me either, so I don't mind that drive. I actually enjoy that drive over there, and I know it's kind of easy to get in and out and get around over there. To me, anyway, I love the arena.
So if you could go to only one, John, and I know you've been sharing information about MLW, so we might have an early favorite, but if you could go to only one, which one stands out to you?
I feel like I don't know. I haven't been to GC Dub, so I feel like I might have to go to GC Dub because I've been to MLW at the ECW Arena like damn handful of times maybe. It's been a lot. It's been a bunch, so I might have to change it up and do some GC Dub. I might have to do Game Changer. Let's see who Janela's fighting. Do you think he's going to bring an ECW legend out of the, out of the woodwork?
Maybe the Invisible Man.
That is kind of funny because it's like, wait a second, Sandman, that's his last match. Is that a joke? And they're like, have repeated, it is not a joke. It is real. That is his real. So how the hell's that going to work?
Yeah,
But I guess that's the beauty of it, right? We'll get into that later, but that's the beauty of it.
Yeah, and the other match isn't too exciting either for a real a real match either. But we'll get into it. I think I would favor GCW as well. I kind of don't exactly get the heels have eyes thing. Like I'm not like maybe I'm not hip to it as the kids say.
Yes.
I kind of like the signage and whatever, but I don't get the crossover. Like, does it have something to do with rap? I'm not like I get there's a vibe there and it's a cool vibe. I'm just not vibing with it.
I have no idea. But speaking of the ECW Arena, not necessarily they're going to be running there, but TNA did run there. So what is, and I was there. It was an awesome show. But what's going on with TNA Wrestling outside? What's going on with them in Georgia? What is going on with them in Louisiana?
So yeah, TNA is doing, I guess, relatively well at the gate. There's been higher expectations basically leading up to the TV deal. And then once they got the TV deal, like it didn't seem like they're blowing the doors off in terms of ticket sales. I don't know if more was being distributed or things were being more promoted, maybe make it look better for AMC. Or a potential buyer or something like that. I call that gussing up the pig by, having more people there, making it look cooler than it is, because tickets kind of have been down since then, but not bad, sort of like relatively for TNA. So for the show, I guess it took place yesterday as we record this. 1,483 tickets distributed, 1922 current setup. Hopefully we'll get from WrestleTix like a final accounting of that. March 6th, so that's tonight, 1,254 tickets distributed there. So that's in Gateway Center Arena, College Park, Georgia. In New Orleans, Louisiana, the Ilario Center, or thereabouts, New Orleans. March 27th, 773 tickets distributed. March 28th, 449. So we'll be seeing if there's a pickup there of a significant degree. The first count of the Wolstein Center from Cleveland, 1,172. That's a pretty good first count for a pretty big venue. It's set up for 4,619, but it's a 13,443 seat venue. I haven't seen a WrestleTix count for Syracuse yet for April 14th and 15th, but a partial setup. And it looks like a few rows close to the ring are set up, are sold, and a few rows in the risers, but plenty of tickets remain.
Now, as far as New Japan Pro Wrestling, or no, sorry, NXT is concerned, what is going on with the latest with NXT? I know they've got a big show coming up, but what is going on with them and hitting the road, if you will?
So first, and thank you to our friend, the Fastmaster, Gavin Bridge, for more heads up on the NXT Fast channel. It felt like at first like it would just be embedded in CW, but it's now actually on Amazon Prime. So getting it out there. Of course, this goes through the CW, so they have the opportunity to promote and distribute NXT shows there. But in terms of attendance and so on, March 17th in the Music Hall in Houston, 742 tickets distributed. NXT Roadblock, March 31st, 1,444 tickets distributed. NXT Stand and Deliver in St. Louis, 1,047 tickets distributed in April. And April 10th, one of my favorite venues, although I can't go to this show, Westchester County Center, 1,654 tickets distributed. John, like I think the best comparison right now is NXT live events. Well, not live events, I'm sorry, because TNA does no live events that aren't for broadcasts. But I guess NXT compared to TNA event in terms of attendance, like it kind of seems neck and neck. Like if somebody said, John, you could invest in one or the other in terms of who will have a better attendance in 2026, who are you picking?
Oof, that's a tough one. I honestly don't know because it just seems like NXT attendance kind of isn't where you would think it should be or would be, just judging on because they kind of do pretty well numbers wise on CW, but then you kind of look at the live attendance, and obviously a lot of the times they're running their home base, if you will, at the PC basically, and God, it's like 400 people, like I guess. But then when you see them out on the road, it's like 1,000 maybe and 1,200, and like it doesn't actually. I don't know why it just doesn't seem like it's actually translating. Not as hot as it once was. Because remember they were when Shinsuke Nakamura and Finn Balor and Owens and Zayn and Samoa Joe were there. I mean, they sold a 15,000 seat arena out. So it's one of those things where I don't think NXT's attendance is quite where it needs to be, and that hasn't really been talked about. I feel like.
Yeah, I remember going to Brooklyn. Was it Bailey against Sasha Banks for the women's title, and that was a sold out, Brooklyn, the arena there, and that was the same night of ROH was in the baseball park or whatever. So that was super hot. I forgot, John, what was like the catalyst that like brought it back down again? Was there something where like it was just the talents?
I think everybody got called up, I feel like, and that kind of went down. But really, if you really look at it, it was like the birth of AEW, because it was like, okay, this is supposed to be minor league WWE with indie stars. AEW is supposedly major league with a lot of those guys that, that they used to have, or ex-WWE guys, or guys that they love in the indies, like the Young Bucks and Kenny Omega, who were awesome on the indies and New Japan and Ring of Honor and everything else. I feel like it was like a little bit of both, but I would mainly say it's probably AEW coming around, because that's kind of where it took a bit of a nosedive.
That's a great point. I always think about the impact on New Japan and Ring of Honor. That makes sense for NXT. And of course, when NXT and AEW went head to head, NXT kept, moving, whereas AEW sort of stayed in place, even though NXT might outrank them now, depending on how many people are watching on HBO Max or
so funny. I was just listening to Meltzer talking about that, about like how many, like, I'm guessing 350,000. We've talked to Gavin Birch. We've talked to Brandon Thirst. We've talked to all these people. I actually know somebody that works in Paramount, like an executive for Paramount. And I just said, what do you think? Like, he wasn't sure, but I said, let me throw this out there to you. It's like sports, like on Paramount and stuff. Well, he said football's different, but when they have sports and he's looking at they only get 10% of what would be on like the normal on cable or whatever. So he was saying, let's say it's 10 to 20% of that. So let's say AEW has 690 or 7. Let's say they did 700. If you're only getting 10 to 20% of that, that doesn't mean 350,000. That's like 100,000 or less. So and Meltzer then be like, it's 350,000 a max. Not even close. Like I don't know where he's getting the number from. It almost seems like false advertising for or trying to pump up AEW, but it's just not true according to everybody we talked to, and an executive that works for Paramount was saying no, it can't be.
Yeah, that makes sense. Like, especially depending on the platform, that's being used. I guess HBO Max is pretty popular, but like, I think even if it's down now, it's like a smart investment in the future, because teaching in college, I teach a sports and politics class now. And, I was actually giving a lesson on like boxing distribution. I'm like, who's heard of closed circuit TV? And no one. And, like all these sort of things. But I asked them who has cable TV, and no one has it. And I asked them about the networks. They know about the networks, ABC, NBC, CBS, but only because of sports. They don't go there for any other reason except to like watch the NFL or like World Series or whatever it be. So that's why it's like so important and so valuable to it. So eventually these people will, depending on what they're interested in, like stream it. But I don't know. Like, I think there's a culture where it's like of a lot of people right now, younger people, where they don't want to pay for anything. So that's like YouTube is so popular and you're like willing to it. Maybe you'll find like a bootleg, but people they're not conditioned to pay for cable. So it's not like a transition. Okay, I'm cutting the cable cord. I'm going to pay for streaming. It's just sort of like paying for something isn't my thing, maybe I'll pay for like, internet connectivity so I have a decent connection, but or on my phone plan or whatever. But I don't know how many people are going to like be signing up for services, in the future. Netflix, obviously, it's super popular, but I'm just trying to like think about like in the future.
Man, just crazy to think where we're going to be in a couple of years. But I just love talking about the HBO Max stuff because it's not there, but somebody out there is trying to sell it like it's there as far as those numbers, but it's not necessarily true. Hope maybe true eventually, but it's not true right now. That we know that.
We'll see when they roll in HBO Max into Paramount and everything
Yes.
that's going to happen with that. Like,
Yep.
I'm going to keep my Paramount Plus until after the White House card, of course, with the book coming out. But I'm just not. I'm not digging the like current UFC so much. I haven't invested as much to like know like everything about the fighters, and sometimes I watch like the standalone. The first night I watched, the whole thing through.
Yep.
But like I feel like you have to know the backstory. But when I watch like the UFC, even in like the dark ages, like they get you up to speed, even if it was someone's debut, like right before, and then same music hits for everyone, and you're like invested. I think it's different. Maybe it's like an old school mentality to me.
I don't know. I can't get into UFC as much anymore unless it's certain guys fighting. So it's like I'll be interested only in those guys. Like Justin Gaethje, I had to watch him. I love watching his fight, so I got to watch Gaethje. They don't have many of those guys left. Although this UFC White House card, I'm hearing possibly Alex Pereira against John Jones, possibly Conor McGregor agreed to fight. So then I'll be definitely interested, and I'll want to watch it. But and like Jerry Prochazka, the guys like that, I'm interested in. But they have so many guys on the roster that are like either quote unquote scrubs or guys I never heard of, but they do nothing to promote, like exactly we should, nothing to get me into them to find out their backstory, find out who they are. So they'll continue to be scrubs in my mind because I'm like, there's not pushing this guy. Like, why don't we know more about this guy? I don't know. Their production isn't up to snuff either because I'm used to WWE production too. So that's a fault maybe in my head or a false positive that I'm thinking, but I just don't like the production either.
Yeah, and Francis Ngannou is a free agent as of today. I know there's a lot of bad blood. So if White is still upset with him, but he's also upset with John Jones, that might be something, have them one knock the other one out or whatever it may be, because they really need like, some big draws for this. Like a lot of people just don't know the international fighters too, like even if they are the best.
Yeah. It'd be interesting to see how they've been doing. I know the first show did pretty well, but I just want to see how the rest of the shows are doing on Paramount. Now, as far as back to wrestling, how did they do as far as New Japan Pro Wrestling in Trenton? I wasn't able to go to that show. I kind of regret it because I heard it was good. Just talked to somebody recently about it. They said it drew pretty well. So how did it do, and what did you think of it?
Yeah, so I think in terms of numbers, they did pretty well, like we've been talking about. So the final count from WrestleTix was 2,653 tickets distributed. BetTix a little bit over 100 pickups there. I think like anything under 2,000 would be a disappointment, and over 3,000 would be like a massive home run. So I think they're like right in that sweet spot. Like again, don't know the budget or anything like that, and flying talent in, I'm not sure so much it's worthwhile, like doing that whatever it's called, the name keeps changing, the Sony Theater in Times Square. This is about the same size and they charge a lot for tickets, and that was sold out, so that seemed to make a lot more sense to me, although they haven't been back, so maybe it was prohibitively costly. I could see booking this older venue at a much cheaper price. Yeah, I think this would have to be a win, especially New Japan still has something in the US, but it's been diminished a lot. But I think this strategy of just running like however many times, whether it's like up to 4 or 5 times in the US, like, and just coming with big shows seems to make the most sense. And they're coming back in July, the G1 Climax in Chicago's Now Arena in Hoffman Estates. So that's a very well branded show for them. And they've always done well in the market. And they weren't here. Not, I guess it would be a year by the time they return, but it doesn't seem like that long ago. So I don't think they'll see last year with the retirement match, but they'll probably do pretty well.
So let's talk a little bit about GC Dub, just because I want to see how they're doing and how the spring break is doing for Joey Janela.
Yeah, so just covering that with GCW this time around, and we'll do the deep dive soon. But Brett had tweeted out they surpassed 1,000 tickets, although a few weeks ago he said that they were close as well. So I don't know how that momentum is going. Their records, and he has talked about this before, Spring Break 2, or at least shared with me, 2,400 in New Orleans, and Spring Break 9 in Vegas. 2,200. So, okay. Actually, I want to check that against the article that I wrote sometime. But I don't think that they'll break any records. Actually, the second match that I was thinking about, besides the Sandman against the Invisible Man, Joey Janela is fighting, the boy. What's his name?
Hayabusa too?
I'm sorry.
Oh, I thought you were talking about Hayabusa. No, he's fighting Brody Lee Jr.
Yeah, Brody Lee Jr. Yes, thank you. So, obviously you could do something with that, and Brody Lee Jr. seems to have a bright future ahead, and everyone is obviously rooting for him as well. But it's again another match where it's like, okay, but right, like, so you have Hayabusa too. That's actually a really interesting match, right? Because Tanaka is in that as well, that tag team match. So that's very intriguing. So they always come up with something interesting. But I would say, like, if I was going to watch the Sandman's last match, maybe they'll do a swerve and he'll actually wrestle someone instead of jumping around in the air. But it just seems a little bit disappointing.
So what is going on with the Palms and the Palm Slam Fest? What is the latest? What's going on? Because they got a bunch of shows coming up.
Yeah, so Paragon, announcing very recently this Slam Fest, which also includes like different podcasts and a Mick Foley show and whatever it may be, all centered around the venue, similar to GCW last time, with wrestling, not necessarily around the clock, but a lot of wrestling. So not a lot of ticket movement. Clearly, Stardom is ahead of the others. they've cleared out not only around the ring, but in the first riser, some of the center there, but with the others, including even CMLL, it's a struggle. They announced it very late, so maybe people are committed to the collective or other things, or have different travel plans.
So as far as ROH is concerned, do they have a new home? What is going on? What's the latest with ROH? I saw they had TV tapings. They have a new studio show, if you will, in Jacksonville. But where will this be seen?
Yeah, that's a great point. I think it's just planned for ROH World, or on the app. But some people were speculating that if they're doing this, maybe there's a better deal ahead. I guess the history of Ring of Honor is waiting for a better deal. But the biggest news was basically that things went well. It looked like 3 rows deep. But obviously it's in their hometown. They have the production capabilities. They have the staff there already. Tony Khan, it's a center base, and you could do multiple tapings at once, in a classic style. So it just seems to work. It's a unique thing. I haven't caught any clips yet to see what it really looks like. But that just seems to work for them. They need something different from Ring of Honor. So a good thing to try.
I saw some fans that were like, "Oh, are you kidding me? Look at this," and blah, blah. But I don't think those fans have ever heard or seen or realized what a studio show is and how it's set up and what it's supposed to look like. Like, they're like, "This is it. This is big." Like, it's a studio wrestling show. That's exactly what it's supposed to look like. I thought it looked kind of cool, to be honest. I know it's not like, 10,000 people. Well, it's a couple hundred, and it's a couple rows, but just the way it's set up and aesthetically pleasing and typical. If you're a wrestling fan, you know what studio shows look like. It looks exactly the way it kind of should look like when it's a studio show.
Yeah, in modern times, I would say, like, there's besides this, studio shows that have been done right. I think the NWA did a great job.
Yeah,
with that, the modern NWA, and WWE does a great job with NXT. It just seems, it's a small group, but it just seems big time. I guess the screens or whatever it may be, like it doesn't feel like that they're in like a really small place. And even obviously they switch it up from time to time, but it doesn't feel stale. At least when I catch it from time to time.
So as far as MLW is concerned, what's the latest with MLW?
Yeah, so they're continuing to like build out a pretty busy schedule. We already talked about the double shot at the 2300 Arena. So just a couple of updates from WrestleTix in terms of tickets distributed. The Fusion TV taping in Atlanta, 556 tickets distributed for March 14th. And then June 11th, the Melrose Ballroom Show, 240 tickets distributed for a current setup of 295. And there's some standing room only or whatever, but it's funny because the Observer used to have, like, when they would sell out the Melrose Ballroom, it'd be like 1,000. So I am going to go now into here and there. Just three of the higher profile shows that we have on the docket: House of Glory and at the big event show, the Super Clash in Suffolk Credit Union in Brentwood, New York. Tickets distributed 354, a current setup of 1165. This venue and this collaboration they had used previously with Mercedes Monet. There's not too many weeks out at this point, if they're announcing some big mainstream talent, which I think would be important to have on the show there. ACW presents Aftershock. So this is the successor to NEW, which is actually still around, but successor to them at the Poughkeepsie venue, best known in the past as the Mid-Hudson Civic Center. They're one of the biggest success stories, and of course, this venue, along with Westchester County Center, just tend to do really well no matter who's running there. But ACW keeping the momentum going. 1,180 tickets distributed there. And TJPW, the Texas Stampede in College Park Center in Arlington, Texas on March 21st, 665 tickets distributed there for a current setup of 2,713 tickets for TJPW. I think they were being a little bit too ambitious. I know that they had success in Texas last year, but we're again not that far out for this show either. And I think there's a certain amount of niche fans that were willing to travel the first time, check it out. But once you've seen it, no knocking their product, I'm not even that familiar with their product, it's hard to come around again, even if, the parts of Texas are different. You can't expect, okay, we're going to do really well in Texas, no matter the size of the venue that we pick out. And this one is a fairly large venue, 6,429 tickets at max.
Sorry about that, Lavie, for a second. I had an emergency phone call, so I had to break off for just for a second. But
no problem. But John, don't worry. We did the here and there. That was not lost.
I was trying to listen. I was like, damn it, I wanted to stay here and there. But all right, damn it, Lavie. All right. You had to do it. But great job breaking it off on your own. I love it. I love here and there. So I just want to throw that out there. That is the best part of the notes, if you will. If to break the fourth wall, like Rhea Ripley and Jade Cargill.
Yes,
breaking down the fourth wall.
The here and there or the other in the Observer was always my favorite section. I know Dave Meltzer is getting a lot of crap online, but yes. He certainly has a wonderful history of wrestling, whether some of it, as more research is done and there's more access to tools, some of it can be disputed. That there's such a wonderful tool, and that's something that really exposed me to more facets of wrestling, in addition to cable TV, late night TV breaking through, and obviously the internet. But before that, the after mags, and when they would have like what was it, like Around the Horn, or like different sections spotlighted where you'd learn about things like Portland.
Now, when we were talking about Meltzer before, I was saying, obviously I think his information or whatever he's saying about the max numbers are wrong. But I love Dave. He is really a fountain of information. The Observer has been the best. It's really kind of the number one if you want to look at historical stuff and look up stuff and know stuff and find dates and places and information. He's the one. He's the one definitely to go to. So no knock on him. Love Dave. But some of the AEW stuff is I think wrong. And we've talked to many people about it. Even the pay-per-view numbers that they put out there are completely wrong. So just throw it out there. And I love AEW. I watch every week, but I'm just saying, the numbers are not there. But for some reason, there is some sort of push to pretend that they're there. I just don't get it.
I think he genuinely believes it if he's reporting it.
Yeah, of course. Somebody's telling him. Yeah, somebody's telling him. Yeah.
And like, I don't think Tony Khan is desperate for Meltzer to report it. Like, it doesn't benefit him that much to make it seem, hotter. So,
I think Tony's doing okay financially. Yeah. They'll be fine.
Yeah, there must be reasons. Sometimes people look into it too much, but clearly Meltzer has always had his favorite style of wrestling, where it was less psychology, especially lucha, and then reality of Japanese wrestling just always appealed more, and everyone has their style. But it's interesting that he was never reflective to be yes, but the most important thing is making money, and this is what's working now. So that's what's important.
Yeah, that's the funny part. I've interviewed him a couple of times, and I was expecting him. I'm a big Hogan guy. I'm expecting him to be anti-Hogan. He's like, oh no, he's the biggest draw of all time. He's the biggest money maker. So I was like, how come that's not reflected in anything that's been out there? So weird. But when you ask him about it, he's like, oh yeah, he's the biggest draw ever. He's like, wow. Not counting obviously old school. If you want to go Jim Londo's and you want to, figure out the money, how it is, or Ricky Dozan or Santo, he was just saying, he thinks Hogan was the biggest draw. So I was like, wow, I'm surprised, because that doesn't be reflective of the Observer at all,
John, I wanted to ask you, what did you think about that auction? Were you following the auction of the boots, the WrestleMania boots?
Yes, I can't believe over $1 million. And Logan Paul was outbid. He's got a ton of money. So that is awesome. That's crazy. I was thinking to myself, man, I'd love to have not only the WrestleMania 1 boots, which I thought were cool. I wanted those NWO boots that he had from WrestleMania 18. But they sold for a couple $100,000 too. So I'm like, God damn. Too bad I'm not rich and I didn't have that. But I would love to have those freaking boots. I love that a WWF wrestling, if you will, memorabilia went for that much. You know what I mean? That's rarefied air.
Yeah, I remember being shocked the first time. I guess it was just off my radar for years. When the trading cards came out as super valuable, the Hogan rookie card, and then there was what was it like a Deli's card set or something from the South, which was pretty rare, because I remember in the 80s, I would buy the wrestling packs, but those you just shoved in a shoebox and you didn't put in a sleeve or protector or anything like that, because nobody cared about them. That was kind of the equivalent of movie cards like E.T. or I guess the Star Wars one now are very valuable too. But it was really the baseball, and then I guess was anything even close to baseball? Because the football, the hockey, basketball. So I think it was baseball, then basketball. I think the hockey were maybe even hotter than football cards.
Wow, really? That's kind of surprising.
Yeah, it just seemed like the football, it didn't, at that time at least, it didn't cross over, as much. I do have a what's his name, Randy Moss. I have a sealed wax set where that was the set where Randy Moss's rookie card is in. So I've just left it closed. I've seen it go for a few hundred online.
Wow, you gotta sell it. You just get that money. What are you doing?
Yeah, I'm open to a trade or
go.
sale. Wrestling memorabilia, Spider-Man or X-Men comics. It's all good.
All right, Lavie, let's wrap up this bad boy and head towards the plugs. You watch me or you follow me on Twitter or Instagram at 2Man Power Trip. How about you, Lavie?
Yeah, follow me on X, Lavie Marg, LAVIE-MARG. Join our LinkedIn group, The Business of the Business. Check out my long-form articles on lioncubjobsearch.com.
Thank you, everybody out there, for listening. We'll see you right back here next week for a little business of the business. See you next week, folks.